here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, Kyle, how's it going, man? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
So, Chris, I'll let you take over here.
Well, let's get right into it. Kyle, I know you're planning to go into lightweight. How's that transition been?
It's been great. I mean, I was always like walking around pretty much as a lightweight, training as a lightweight, and then just like really dieting hard and kind of killing myself to make it down to 145. And I think that's why some of my performances wasn't able to show a lot of my skill set stuff, just because the weight cut stuff just took a little bit too much out of me.
And I got to be honest, I've seen your Instagram. You were looking absolutely jacked. Have you just been lifting heavier? Like, what kind of training differences has it been now that you're moving up in weight?
Yeah, so I'm lifting a little bit of weights now. I used to love lifting weights when I was younger, like in high school and stuff. But just, yeah, like once I started competing in a weight class sport, anytime I touched a weight, I would gain a bunch of weight. So I stayed away from the weights when I was sticking to 145. But now that I'm at 155, I wanted to kind of fill out and make sure I was a solid 155er and start lifting again. And the muscle built back real quick.
Well, yeah, you're looking absolutely great, man. Just had to be honest with you. We haven't seen you in the octagon for quite some time. Do you know what's the holdup? Like, are you just taking time off? Has there been issues with you finding a fight? What's happening here?
Yeah, I have no clue. So right after my last fight, we talked to Dana on the way out, and he said, "Yeah, we're gonna get you another fight." I was like, "Okay, awesome." Again, we were in the middle of the pandemic, so that was September of 2020. And then shortly after that, we kind of let the UFC know that I'd like to move up to 155 pounds. And then since then, my manager's been in touch with them. Basically, the whole past 2 years, just saying, Kyle's ready. Anytime somebody got injured or had to pull out, we'd send them a message and let them know I could step in. And we just haven't got a fight yet, so I'm not sure what's going on.
And how frustrating has this been the past couple of years dealing with that?
It's extremely frustrating. I turned 30, so that's like my athletic peak. And then I turned 31, so I kind of now. I mean, they say 30 to 32 is kind of your athletic peak for this sport. So I'm still in my peak, and I feel like I've been getting better, and I feel like moving up to 155, I'm going to be able to showcase a lot of the skills and stuff that I wasn't able to at 145. So I've been kind of chomping at the bit to get in there, and then obviously being a part of the UFC, you don't make any money unless you're fighting. So I've had to start to do a lot of other things to try and support myself and try and supplement myself and like pay for training and all the, kind of the other expenses that come with being a professional athlete.
And speaking of doing other things, you've started your own gym, Muskoka Martial Arts. How's that process been? And was starting a gym something you've always wanted to do?
Yeah. It was always something I wanted to do. I kind of thought about doing it when I retired. But then again, during the pandemic, the previous owner ran into some hardship, like a lot of other martial arts gyms. And, I needed to find some sort of different avenue of income. So I kind of joined up with a different person, Mike Fox. And we opened up Muskoka Martial Arts in December of 2021. And then in January, kind of the big year for gyms and martial arts gyms and everything, the government shut us down again. So we were shut down for the whole month of January. That was, I know some gyms, that's kind of where they make their money to support themselves for the whole year. So it really hurt, I think, the gym being shut down in January. But we opened back up in February, and then it's been a slowly kind of building process since then. But I think being in Muskoka, I was born and raised in Muskoka. I know a lot of people around there. So I think that kind of helped. And we're at a point where the gym's kind of breaking even. So we can keep it open. And hopefully next time I get a fight, it'll again kind of boost the popularity of myself and the gym, and we'll be able to get the gym making a profit.
I'm glad to hear that. Have you been spending like majority of your time at Muskoka Martial Arts?
No, so I'm still splitting my time. I do usually Monday to Thursday at House of Champions in Stony Creek. That's about a 3-hour drive from Muskoka. and then I'll come up and I coach at Muskoka Martial Arts Friday and Saturday, and then visit with the family on Sunday, and then head back down to training.
Right on. I want to ask about Diana, and correct me if I pronounce her last name wrong. Is it Belbita?
Yeah, I think Belbita. Yeah, I think they say Belbita. It's like pizza.
So I see you in her corner, and what's your role with her? Are you just like a training partner? Like, and how did you get to know her? Because I know you used to fight in Romania, and she has a Romanian background.
Yeah. So I fought in Romania a couple times. The reason I got that opportunity is because my head coach and manager, Alin Halmachin, he's from Romania. He was born and raised in Romania, moved to Canada like 20 years ago. So he kind of knows everybody back in Romania. He would take me and some other fighters back there every now and then to fight. And then Deanna was, building herself up in Romania. And then she got signed with the UFC, and she kind of wanted to, step her training up. So she came over and started training with us. And that was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And then since then, we've had Adrian Woolley help her with her wrestling. And then obviously Crew Lynn has done all her striking. And then I've kind of, between myself and Gabe Sagman, we've kind of filled in as her jiu-jitsu coach.
Right on. And lately, she's gained quite a popularity on social media. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, she's always had a huge following, I think, on Instagram and Facebook. I know she did like some shows in Romania, like kind of like Survivor and stuff like that. So she had a big following on those platforms. And then recently she's got into like Twitter and stuff. So she's been doing well with that, posting some interesting stuff, kind of gets the people talking. And then the UFC is doing that now, where they'll post athletes' tweets kind of in the bottom corner during the live events and stuff. So yeah, I think that's kind of helped grow her Twitter a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I always see her Twitter popping up on my feed, and a lot of even other fighters like Terrence McKinney are like interacting with her and talking to her too. So it's cool to see. But what are your thoughts on the current state of the lightweight division right now? It's arguably the most popular and best division. Lots of big fights there. We don't have a champion right now with Oliveira missing weight. What are you thinking right now about it?
Yeah, I mean, like the lightweight's kind of always been one of, if not, definitely one of the kind of busiest and most packed divisions. I think it's just kind of how like the weight works out. I think like the average guy is like whatever, like 5'9", 5'10", and walking around like 180 pounds. We all kind of cut down to 155. And then athletes that are generally bigger than that, they go play football or something, or hockey, make millions and millions of dollars doing that. But yeah, I think lightweight is definitely one of the most busiest and packed divisions. But I think it's going to be a much better division for myself. I think just my frame and the muscle I carry and stuff like that, I'm going to be able to compete really well, especially with those, those top 5 guys.
What did you think of? Oh, sorry, Luke.
I'm going to interrupt you there real quick. Kyle, I do have a question for you quickly. So with the weight that you do cut, you were cutting down to 145. How much weight were you cutting, if you don't mind me asking?
So I generally walk around at 185. So when I get a fight, especially with the UFC, it wasn't always with a lot of notice. So, if I got like 2 or 3 weeks, I'd be cutting from 180 or 185 down to 145. So I think it was that short time span to cut down to 45. Before I was in the UFC, usually I'd get, 2 months notice for a fight, so I had a little bit longer time to kind of, lean out. But with the short amount of time, I kind of have to crash diet. And then I think that just kind of leaves my muscles and a lot of my, aerobic systems and all that stuff kind of depleted for the fight.
And speaking of weight cutting, what did you think of Charles Oliveira missing weight and losing his title?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I heard there's some controversy. I don't know if they've kind of cleared it up yet, but they're saying like the scale behind the scenes, like the one you check your weight on, was 0.5 heavy. So it sounds like a couple of the other fighters said that. But still, I feel like with the time allowance that they give you between missing weight, they usually give you an hour, whatever, 2 hours to, cut another half a pound. I think he probably should have been able to do that. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, to go from, defending your title to not even fighting for a title anymore, and then whatever implications that has as far as pay-per-view dollars that he would have made being the champion, whereas now he's no longer the champion, and then what that would do to his purse, obviously sponsorships. I mean, that really sucks for him.
And it seemed like it didn't really bother his performance because he looked amazing against Justin Gaethje. What did you think of that fight?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised. I mean, I know his striking's good, but I was really impressed with how he came out strong with his striking in that first round. And again, we've seen him dropped a couple times in his last few fights. It's usually always in that first round, and that kind of, then he kind of sorts stuff out and gets going. And yeah, he really poured it on Justin. I wasn't sure how that fight was going to go. I knew he had him beat on the ground, but I thought Justin, standing wise, was going to be durable and be able to eat the shots and return with big shots. So I was definitely surprised when he finished him, or dropped him as hard as he did and was able to finish him with a choke.
And earlier that night, Michael Chandler absolutely flattened Tony Ferguson with a front kick of all moves. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I was also super surprised with Tony. Like that first round was a close round. Tony was landing a lot of good stuff. The grappling changes were, he was doing really well. So I thought, wow, Tony's back. He's coming off a couple losses, but he looked, really impressive to me. And then, then he just got, murdered by that push kick to the face. And that sucks for him. Hopefully he heals up and he comes back. But, it's definitely good to see from Chandler, too, because I know he was like 2-2 coming into the organization. For somebody as talented and as exciting as him, it kind of sucks when you have like a 500 records. But now coming back into the title picture.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he was pumped because he did like 4 backflips after he won.
Yeah.
But going back to like the vacant title, do you believe Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev is the fight to make next, or does Islam Makhachev have to prove himself, beat someone in the top 5 and beat Beneil Dariush?
That's what I was going to say. The only other name up there, I think, right now is Beneil Dariush. So I think it just depends on Oliveira's schedule. Like if he wants to fight again right away, then we'll throw in Islam. If he wants to take a little bit of time off, kind of rest and recover, maybe at a hard training camp, then I'd like to see Beneil Dariush versus Islam. But I think it all just depends on Oliveira right now.
Luke?
Yeah, so I just want to get your thoughts about, there's another thing that's kind of buzzing around, Chandler versus Conor. I mean, Conor seems to come in and, it appears to be that he just gets, quick shots at title, but maybe he needs like another fight. So Chandler said he'd be down, and I think Conor probably be down for that fight. So if that fight went together, how would you see that fight going down?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting fight. Like Chandler, he likes the striking and stuff, and I think that would be kind of a bad idea for him. We've seen him, get hit and dropped, in a couple of his fights, especially even going back to Bellator. Like he would get in wars, and he'd always kind of get hit and dropped and stuff like that. But I think with Conor, I don't know if that's something he can get into. Conor's a sniper, and he's got some power, so I can definitely see Conor stinging him and picking him apart standing. But Chandler's got some amazing wrestling too, and he's so explosive. I could see him kind of tying up Conor and kind of gassing him out like Khabib did. So I think it's kind of a 50-50 fight, and it all depends on too how Conor comes back after injuring his leg. But if I was putting money on it, I'd probably go Chandler.
And I mean, like with Conor McGregor, speaking about him, I know there's always a lot of buzz with Conor. What are your thoughts about him coming back and fighting for a title? How would you personally feel about that? And speaking for other fighters in the roster.
You cut out a little bit there. Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Apologize. Looking at Conor McGregor, there's always buzz around him. He's always staying active on social media. He's always like talking about wanting to fight back for the title. How would you feel if that did happen and he got an immediate title shot? And what are your thoughts about that? And can you speak among for the entire UFC roster?
I'm so far to the title picture right now. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I'd watch the fight. Any Conor fight's exciting. Obviously does a great job with his own kind of marketing and promotion and stuff like that. And then it's always nice, like when he fought Cowboy, it's like, I'm happy for Cowboy too, because hopefully he's making a bunch of money. So if they do kind of throw him in there with Oliveira, well, then I'm happy for Oliveira. He's going to make a bunch of money. And again, I think Oliveira, I think he probably get dropped in the first round, but I think he can come back and probably end up submitting Conor as well. So, I mean, if I was up there in the top 5, I'd probably have a different opinion about it. But being where I'm at right now, until I'm in like that top 10, top 5, it doesn't really matter whether they throw Conor in the title fight every time from now on until I get there.
There's a lot of buzz about another guy, Paddy Pimblett. What are your thoughts about him, and where do you see his success going?
I think he sucks. He's fat, sucks. He's obviously not very well disciplined, because when he gets out of fights, he's like up over 200 pounds. But yeah, I mean, his skill set, like his stand up, I mean, he's got a good chin, I guess. That's pretty cool. But he just eats shots. And then like his first opponent there in the UFC, I thought for sure was going to put him away, because Paddy just eats so many shots, but then he just kind of stands and trades and kind of swings back and hopes to land one. He does have some really nice jiu-jitsu and stuff, but again, I think he's just, doesn't have much striking at all. And if he gets in there and trades with anyone that can, throw some power, I think he's in trouble.
What do you think of his kind of Sean O'Malley approach? Because the 2 guys he's fought have already been cut from the UFC, and he's claiming he makes more money from outside the UFC than he does from fighting.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting that he brought up, because I believe like his last fight he made $12,000 and $12,000, which is like the standard UFC contract. Like you start whatever 10 and 10 above. But I was surprised the UFC started him on that. I thought, coming with such a big following that he has and the popularity, I thought maybe the UFC would start him at a higher contract. But yeah, it sounds like he got the same kind of basic contract. And so if he fights, once a year, twice a year, he's only making, 50 grand. So I'm sure, if he had a full-time job, he'd be making more money than that outside the UFC. So with his popularity and his marketing skills, I'm sure he can do, between sponsors and podcasts and whatever he wants to do, I'm sure he can make more than that easily.
Now, is that a fight that interests you if it was offered?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be the perfect fight for me to kind of come out and make a big splash and remind everyone who I am after being out for 2 years and, steal some of that hype from Paddy.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Pretty awesome. And now that you're in lightweight too, is there any other, like, there's a lot of killers that aren't even ranked. Like, is there anyone that you've been thinking of like calling out or just on that are on your mind to fight?
Not really. I mean, like Paddy, every time I watch him fight, I thought that'd be a great fight. But yeah, I mean, outside of like the top 10 guys, just anybody really. I just want to get back in there. When I finished my last fight, I had a couple people in mind, and I even got talking on Twitter and stuff. But then they went and fought 3 or 4 times and whatever, and they got cut. Like the division is, always constantly changing outside of that top 10. So, not being in there for so long, I don't really have anybody in mind right now. I just want to get back in there.
Fair point. What do you think of what's next for Dustin Poirier? He's kind of in an odd spot. He's lost 2 championship fights. He's been calling out Nate Diaz, it seems like forever now. Colby Covington, he finally responded to his call out. And then obviously there's a possibility maybe of another McGregor fight. What do you think is next for him?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a popular guy. He's a big draw, and he's still a great fighter. It's not like he's over the hill. So I think he's got a lot of options. But yeah, it would be nice to see him get one of those big money fights, like a Nate Diaz fight or a Conor fight. And then, see what he does after that. If he makes that trilogy fight with Conor. I know obviously Conor wants it. I don't know what the UFC thinks, but I'm sure the fans would tune in again, and then he'd make another chunk of money, and then he'd probably decide if he wants to stick it out in the 155-pound division and keep, trying for that title, or if he'd then move up and fight Nate Diaz at 170. Yeah, I mean, he's always entertaining, and he's still got the skills to compete. So.
For sure. A couple Canadians recently with some nice performances. Mike Malott with the vicious KO over Mickey Gall, and Charles Jourdain, he went viral with that Sparta kick against Andre Ewell. And then you got a quick sub against Groovy Lando. What are your thoughts on those Canadians?
Yeah. So I've trained a lot with Mike Malott. And he started out, he's kind of from the same area, like Stony Creek area. So he's back and forth, I think, between there and Team Alpha Male. So I get to train with him a fair bit. And he's super talented. I think he's going to do big things at that 170-pound division. And he's a charismatic guy. I think he does well, on the mic and all that stuff. So I think he's going to have a bright future with the UFC. Charles Jourdain, that was a great performance. I've watched pretty much all his fights. We were both in the 145-pound division for a while. I was supposed to fight him a couple times before either of us were in the UFC, so I kind of studied him a lot. I see a lot of his holes, and it seems like some of those holes are still there, even though he's doing well. That guillotine was nice. He was able to finish that well. I've seen him try that on other guys. He's always seemed to have a pretty solid guillotine. So hopefully he can keep climbing the ranks. I know he's calling out people, and I heard he might have a fight coming up against
Shane Burgos.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be a super interesting fight. That'll be a tough fight, and that'll kind of either shoot him up the rankings or let us know where he's at right now.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like he's kind of becoming a fan favorite now for a lot of MMA fans, and that Burgos fans could be that Burgos fight could be pure violence.
Yeah.
Luke?
Yeah, so I just wanted to end off with a few more for you. Obviously, we just talked about some Canadian fighters and like yourself. I don't know if you heard, but there is some buzz and some possibility that UFC is going to come back to Canada. I think around in the fall. At least that's a conversation I have with Jasmine Justavidius. We discussed that. What do you think about that? And it's possibly going to be in Toronto. So I only can imagine you would love to be on that card.
Yeah, absolutely. And the timeline that they're talking about, I think would work perfect for me too. Like I said, I've been out for like 2 years, so I had to kind of go and get a job and do some other things. So, still training consistently, staying in shape and stuff, but it would be nice to have a bit of time to put in a real solid training camp to get ready for it. And I think that timeline lines up well with me. So hopefully we'll hear something from the UFC soon.
Yeah. And I mean, would you still like a fight maybe during the summer or something before then?
I think if I was going to fight in the UFC, I would like September-ish. Just to, again, get in some hard sparring rounds, travel a little bit. I like to go down to like Niagara Top Team with Jasmine and Mike Lott and all those guys down there. So I'd like to be able to get in, a solid few months, doing all that, put the day job on the back burner for a little bit.
And just kind of end this here. I've been asking everybody in the last week or two, every fight I've had, and I guess, have you ever experienced like any like bad fan mail or like weird DMs or anything kind of crazy?
Yeah, I get a lot of weird stuff. Even now, even though I haven't competed in like 2 years, sometimes I'll comment on like a UFC's post or something, like if I think there was a robbery or whatever, and then I'll get some DMs. I don't know. I want to repeat. I don't know. Some of them are pretty raunchy, I guess you'd say, maybe. But yeah, there's some interesting people out there.
Well, we keep this media rated R, so you're free to say whatever you want.
So like a lot of, I guess you like homosexuals, I guess. Definitely send me a lot of messages, and they like to describe a lot of stuff that they'd like to do with me.
Like the first one and the last.
What's that? Sorry.
You're not the first one, and you won't be the last one.
Yeah, it's it's interesting being in front of, millions of people, competing like that, in shorts and stuff. And yeah, so you get a lot of different people messaging you.
Definitely an awkward conversation, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Final question from me, Kyle. You always post videos with your fight predictions and photos. And my friends, actually, a bunch of them follow you and they take those picks and bet on it. And they call it the Monster Parlay. And it's worked out. It's worked out a lot. They've made some decent coin from your predictions. Do you actually bet on the fights, or is that just you just letting your fans know who you got?
Yeah, so I started out doing that like 2 years ago. And again, just like for sponsors and stuff. And so I wasn't really into the betting or anything. But then like 2 weeks ago, I downloaded an app finally and started betting on them now. So yeah, so I'm starting to bet on my own picks. But yeah, I mean, I've heard lots of people have sent me DMs like, oh, they made X amount of dollars off my picks. And it's generally always good. There's been one or two that have lost a little bit of money, but generally everybody seems to do okay on my picks. But yeah, so I just started betting. I'm starting out slow, just a couple bucks on each fight, and we'll see how it goes.
It does actually, like, I'm not a huge gambler myself, but I know it does make the fight a bit more entertaining when you got money on it.
Exactly. And even just trying to find the right odds, like picking, if it's like a first round submission for so-and-so, then the odds are, crazy. So sometimes it's nice to try and find those little odds, because then when one hits, you bet $1 and you make like $15. And, the risk versus reward is so good and then obviously it makes the fights a little more exciting.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to throw a Hail Mary, right?
Yeah.
But that's everything I got. I don't know about you, Luke.
No, that's everything, Kyle. I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and let us interview, let us catch up with you and see what you've been doing. And when you have a fight book, I would love to have you back on.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll hear something, in the next few weeks about what's going on in the fall here in Canada. And then I can, release that news and talk more about it. Yeah, come back on.
Awesome. Thanks again for your time, Kyle. It's great catching up with you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on.